Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans, and I'm your body transformation coach, health strategist, and internationally published author, helping take your life, your business, your health, fitness, mindset, and body from where you are right now to where it is that you want to be. And I have a very special international guest with me today. It's Dr. Neeta Bhushan. And Neeta is, she's an author, and she's going to tell us she's got a new book coming out in January next year, and she's going to tell us all about that. And she's got this great grit process that she uses to help people. I'll get her to tell you about her book in a moment, but when you're coping with sucky moments, I suppose, that happen in your life, and how we deal with all of the chaos and everything that goes on. So first of all, Neeta, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so great to be here, Rob.
And look, I can't help but think about the hats you're wearing right now, Outback Australia. You know, you've really themed yourself nicely there. So tell us a little bit about your book and a bit about your background.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Chicago, immigrant parents, and of course, the hat is definitely part of my wardrobe all the time, but I do actually wear many hats. And first and foremost, I'm an emotional health advocate. I mean, I think that a lot of the through lines and themes in my life has really been around mental toughness, which is, what you talk about, but really connecting the dots around resilience and grit. Both of those themes were really a big part of my upbringing and how I actually grew up with immigrant parents and, honestly having to grow up early. And so a lot of the hallmarks of my life, started when I had to be a child caretaker at 10 years old and had to take care of my mom going through her battles with breast cancer. And then, when she succumbed and she had lost that battle after 6 long years, I mean, I was 16. So literally, I grew up in and out of hospital settings. I had to grow up early. I was the oldest of two, siblings, my brothers, and tragedy would hit one after the other then in this time period in my teenage years. So from, I would say 10 to 19, there was a sucky moment happening. And it was every year and every year and every year, as it seemed, where I would lose my mom. A year later, I would lose my brother. And
Mm.
then 2 years after that, I would lose my father to cancer. And so at 19, I'm orphaned. I am, taking care of my youngest brother, who is then 14 years old. And I had two choices. I could, succumb to just burying those tough emotions, which I did because that eventually became my coping mechanism for the next 10 years as I got into my 20s, until I would get into a relationship that would totally change my life. And, it was a toxic relationship. And really, it was everything I needed in order to completely break down so that I can come back to myself and really understand the connection points of my life, which has been what I now teach people in my famous grit process, because that was my very first book, Emotional Grit. And I use grit as an acronym to grow, reveal, innovate, and transform. And because all of us and all of your listeners have stories. We all have stories that have shaped us in some way. We all have the stories that maybe have, taken us down, but we can chart a new path, and we can definitely chart a different way of thinking when we actually have the tools around. So I've literally devoted most of my life now, after I've left my professional career as a dentist, to understand not only the human psychology and the interpersonal dynamics between how we work, but actually what gets us motivated, what gets us to get out of the sucky place. Because there's a lot of you thinking right now that are in a tough spot. How can I get that mental toughness? And this is what my next book is all about. That sucked. Now what? It's not just about, well, that sucked and let's get over it really fast. And now what? It's really the beauty of the middle of honoring the suck moments that do happen, the loss, the job loss, getting fired, getting betrayed, getting cheated on, these regular human moments that can take us down, but also the vulnerability in the middle, the honesty of, wow, that had to have been tough growing up how you did, but just acknowledging that. And then we get into the now what, which is getting out of the suck and taking action. How is that going to then change the trajectory of your life?
Mm. So a couple of points. First one is you do have very nice teeth. So
Thank you.
your years of dentist work has given you nice focus there.
It's very true. Thank
in,
you.
in terms of the and sorry about your parents and your brother too. That's that's really tough. And when you're 19, you're trying to find your place in the world and to deal with those things. That's really tough. So I find that you've probably mastered it quicker than I did, because I'm 54 now, and I reckon it's probably taken me 30 years to get to the point where I feel like I've mastered the communication I have with myself, and how to deal with those really tough moments, and build your resilience and mental toughness. Do you think, I think I heard you say this correctly, but you've gone through a lot, and you got to that point, you went into that relationship. Do you think you started to move beyond a lot of this stuff once you hit your lowest of lows?
Oh, yes. I think that so when there's a framework I talk about in the book That Suck Now What, and it's called the Fly Forward framework. And in that framework, I talk about there's 5 different stages when we go through something big and monumental. And for me, that was the fall. And the first stage is the falling stage. So many times when we hit a roadblock, or there's a challenge, or we hit a failure, or in my instance it was a toxic relationship where I had 2 choices. I could stay
Mm.
and my life was literally threatened, or I could leave. But those 2 choices, one had to be tougher than the other to actually make me go, wait, there's a sense of urgency here, which then gets you into that stage 2. Because stage 1 of the falling stage, either you have a mental diagnosis, a health diagnosis, some sort of diagnosis, or something unexpected happens that you weren't going to go through or didn't even think that would happen. Then the second stage is
Sorry,
the
can I just stop
rising
you there
stage.
for a sec before we get on to
Yeah.
the second step? So I think this is important, because I find that life in many instances comes down to moments. There's something very specific, and there's probably, oh golly, off the top of my head, I could probably think of at least 5 pivotal moments, decisions that I've made that have fundamentally changed my life. Now, I realize what I'm about to ask you is obviously personal, given you're in a toxic relationship and stuff. So I only share what you want to share. But can you remember the moment where you said, I don't know, like, here's a pen, I dropped the pen, okay, and that dropping of the pen that's the moment where I said never again. Do you have
Yeah.
one of those? Yeah.
Absolutely. It was, December 31st, and it was New Year's Eve, and I hear the fireworks and I hear everybody, kind of celebrating. I hear laughter, and it was a cold night in Chicago. And there I was in my master bedroom. It was a beautiful home. It was everything that I thought I wanted, because remember, I had lost 3 members of my family not too long before that. And I thought I got myself out of what I considered a rut, or an emotional rut. But
Yes.
in fact, I was still in it. And I was in such denial that I was in an abusive relationship. I was in such denial that it took, friends saying, you know what, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It took so many different red flags. And the final straw was it was the last time I would allow him to hit me again. And where I was in fetal position, December 31st, looking at the mirror in my master bedroom, saying, how did I get here? Why am I feeling so mentally, emotionally, and spiritually depleted where I don't even know who I am? And it's like that rock bottom moment where everything is falling around you, or everything is crumbling. But that's that beauty in that, because that's where you then get into the ignition. The ignition is step 2. And stage 2 is the ignition of, all right, You have a sense of urgency. You need to make a decision. Are you still going to eat those chips? Are you still going to smoke? Are you still going to do what you've been doing? Or are you going to leave the relationship, quit that job, quit that person in your life,
Mm.
speak up for yourself? That is that stage two of, you're ignited, and there's a sense to move past through that.
Can I ask how long it took you to get to that moment?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I was married for about I was in the relationship for 5 years. I was married for about 16 months.
Right.
So,
Okay. So,
so about 5 years into the relationship.
yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah. I mean, my first really big one was six. No, actually, the second one was 6.5 years.
Oh, wow.
That took me, because you tell yourself a different story. I think you
Hmm.
want to believe that something is different. It's only it's silly, because if somebody, like your friends, if somebody else is watching this, like on TV, and they're like, "That's crazy. Why are you still there? Why are you still doing that?" And yet we tell ourselves a different story constantly, don't we?
No, it's so true. And I think, for anyone who is, I think being on both sides. I
Yeah.
was the victim in that situation, and I so didn't want to believe or accept what my reality was,
Yes.
that I was so blinded by it. And I think for whoever is listening that needs to hear this today, the people that are around you, they want the best for you. And
Mm.
many times, you think that change is going to be the worst change ever, but it may just be the best decision of your life. And it wasn't the best decision at that time. First, it got painful. It was awful. It was so many things coming out of a Pandora's box, as you can imagine. It was messy. It was chaotic, kind of like my subtitle of my book. But there was magic in those moments where I finally felt, okay, I'm free. I feel liberated. I can feel that I'm safe in my body. Um, but when you're there, you think, I don't have a choice. I feel trapped. I feel stuck. And many times we're stuck in our own thoughts.
It takes a lot of courage to make that decision. And having been on the other side, you kind of sit there on one side and think, oh, well, what is the pain like going to be on the other side? Maybe it's
Yeah.
worse than what it is on this side. But having done it a number of times now, and I think once you do it the first time, it gives you more courage to do it the second time. So you refer to the last instance, say, well, it was much better when I did this last time, so surely this situation is going to be better as well. But we get, I guess, tied up in what that pain, that I guess we can't predict the future, and we're thinking that, no, surely it will just get better
Mhm.
here. So maybe tell us about the second step, and that'll give people a bit of an insight as to how you can move, because we become so immobilized in action, in inaction.
Right.
We stay there.
Right. And absolutely. And so the second stage is the ignition, where you have to make a decision and you have no choice. It was that my choice in my ignition stage was December 31st. Your choice would be perhaps maybe the idea of staying or leaving, or it's staying in a job or a company culture or an organization that is not really truthful, where you're going to work every single day, you're hating it, or saying that you want to lose the 10 or 20 pounds or whatever it is, get on a better health track. Yet you keep going on that scale and nothing is changing. It's time to make a decision. It's time to hire that coach. It's time to hire that strategist. It's time to hire the people around you so that you can actually elevate your life. And so that's that stage two. Now, when we get into stage three, which is the rising stage is kind of like those baby steps. It is the baby steps of you hiring that coach or getting that divorce lawyer or getting that therapist or saying yes to that new thing where it's a new opportunity and you are approaching it with curiosity. You're into this new self-discovery about you. You're probably accepting your circumstance. Yeah, okay, so I've gained a few pounds this past year, or I know I'm constantly in my head. I keep judging everything and I feel like I'm self-sabotaging. So this is that rising stage, and you have a little bit more confidence there because you're now allowing instead of constricting. And when we get into stage 4, and this is the most important stage, stage 4 and 5, that is the magnify stage. And now with the magnify stage, you're now actually starting to have some self-forgiveness, have some compassion for yourself, because you may not be ready to forgive the other person, or maybe you are, but you're ready to move on. You're ready to get a new narrative, which allows you to blossom. It allows you to flourish. It allows you to say, that actually happened for me, not to me. So we move from that victim circumstance, like we felt in, the initial stage, into a circumstance of, okay, this is that hero's journey that you begin to grow on and go on and invite other people in that. And then we get into finally the thriving stage, where it's no longer about your story. It's no longer about you. It's about, all right, I want to help as many people as possible. I want to share my story everywhere. I want to give other people tips and tools so that they don't have to go through this. Maybe I want to volunteer myself at an organization, at an after school something, give my time or give my monetary funds to an organization that supports this thing that I got out of so that I can help more people. And that's the thriving stage. And now I want to give just a brief caveat here, Rob, because I don't want people to think that, oh, when we get into thriving or magnifying, that we're not immune to human events that can take us back down in the spiral, because that's the fly forward framework. You can go back and forth. You can live in a space of, in that magnify stage, you can feel abundant, yet still scared that, oh, is somebody going to hurt me again? Is somebody going to betray me again? Am I going to be able to trust this person? And that's the beauty of understanding and knowing that radical self-acceptance and self-awareness of, I might be cautious, but I'm still going to be open. I might be feeling abundant and I might be flourishing, but I still might have some internal reservations. And that is the beauty of the journey and the work.
I know where, well, I think that's a really good model, and how you, articulate the stages that you go through. And obviously we're talking about it here fairly quickly, but the reality is that you can be in, well, like I said, 6.5 years to making that first decision. And you can, there's no right or wrong in terms of, okay, well, you're in this one for 2 weeks and then you move to this one. And I think, for me, I was in, you're in a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain, however you want to language it, before you get to that point where you say, no, I need to change this. And then when you move to, that next stage, I think you will always go back and say, oh, geez, have I made the right decision here? Was that the right thing for me to do? And I guess the answer to that, if you're questioning yourself, is that, well, you are where you are right now for a reason. And now is the timing is right, wherever it is that you are. And if you're stuck, you're stuck. Do you find that you've got to make the problem so big and so painful before you can move on? Otherwise, you just stay stuck in one of these stages?
So this is a great question. And, prior to my research here and diving in, I would say, sometimes the pain has to be so great in order to change.
Yeah.
Right. But now for your listeners, for folks who are committed to doing the work, for folks who are committed to seeing what's beneath the hood, seeing what are my fears, what are my insecurities, what are my obstacles, what are the roadblocks that really keep me stuck? What am I so afraid of? We can actually change that narrative. And, with any habit change, with any behavior change, there's always, there's always the reward at the end. Our brain is equipped to doing things that are easy. but our brain is not equipped to seeing, okay, why do I actually want that candy bar? What am I trying to fill the void of? Why am I going back to a partner or keep attracting the same kinds of partners
Yes.
in my life instead of saying, ah, man, another one,
Yeah.
another one like this. But because that's the reward, right? Another amazing person going on a date with, but then you start to see the red flags, and then we're quick to say, crap, I'm attracting another one just like that, instead of saying, what are my patterns in relationship where I am continuously picking people that aren't available or treating me terribly? That's the second layer to this. And I think for all of your audience members listening, it doesn't the pain does not have to be that great to leave. Today you have the tools, the self-awareness, the self-inquiry, where you can ask yourself, what do I really mean by that? What is my relationship with that thing that I keep drawing up, or that person that keeps triggering me? To then go, okay, maybe I need to set boundaries here. Maybe I need to do something different instead of reacting when something really big, monumental happens to
Yeah,
make a
I
change.
guess what you're talking about there is that we really need to build a belief that, because people could be listening to us saying, well, that's okay for you too. It worked out for you too. You've got podcasts, you do this or whatever. I'm just a normal guy that was in, like most people, you have an opportunity every day to ask yourself a different question and to make excuses and, keep moving forward, or, you stay where you are. But it's really about helping people create a belief that, well, it can be better for you too. You don't have to be stuck where you are. You can control your life and, make better decisions. So I guess using these steps and what you were just talking about there, it really is about developing that sense of self-belief that, yeah, it can be different. I can do this. I can have, beautiful outcomes for me, whether it's, the trauma of moving from a relationship, or it could be as simple as just as shifting career.
Absolutely. And I have a brilliant exercise too that I can just, share here with your guests for
Please.
anybody that's questioning, oh gosh, that must have been easy for you and not for me. There's a brilliant exercise that you can just do and just write down basically all of the things that have gotten you to where you are today. Maybe these pivotal moments, these pivotal life initiations is what I call them. Maybe it was a breakup in the third grade, or, perhaps maybe it was a divorce with your parents, or maybe you had a divorce, or maybe somebody at work said something to you. There was, somebody, you got fired. Write down all of the instances that have led you, and from, in your life, monumental moments, right, that have brought you here where you are today. And I want you to circle the ones where maybe they were so painful at the time, but you wouldn't be where you are today without it. Like, for example, if you didn't get fired, you wouldn't have found your love of your life. Or if that job did not work out for you, then you wouldn't have created your own practice or whatever that is. But I want you to circle those gems, because those are the gems. And remember that every time there is a breakdown, every time that there's a conflict, every time that there's a challenge, perhaps maybe something better is on the way. And that's the belief that I had to start creating. And it's a beautiful exercise. I do this, in organizations. My husband and I, it's one of our practices that we do at the end of every year. And I told you, Rob, that I have a gift for your audience as well. I'm happy to share the emotional grit guidebook that actually has that exercise plus a slew of those exercises that can help you start to make and create action in your life.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you. We'll talk about how, people can get access to that at the end. And we'll put a link below the podcast and so forth.
Amazing.
You're absolutely right. These breakthrough moments, like you and I would not be talking right now if somebody hadn't threatened to kill me back in 1988. It's as simple as that, because from that moment, I just decided to make a change. Like bit hard to tell on a podcast. I look like I'm 6 foot tall, perhaps, but I'm only 5'5" in the old scale. So I'm not, I'm not a tall guy. So I was always an easy target for bullies, and I was bullied through primary school, high school. And then when I went to uni, there was this instance one day where this guy threatened to kill me. And that was the moment I said, I'm too old for this. I'm not ever going to feel humiliated and immobilized, embarrassed ever again. And that's the day that I went to, or it was around that time that I decided to go and join a gym and change my body. I knew I couldn't get any taller, but I could get bigger and get more confidence.
Stronger.
Now, years later, I realized it had nothing to do with the way that I looked, and it was all about what went on in here. But I had to go on that journey for myself. And I think about all the amazing things that I've done out of that very painful moment where somebody threatened to kill me. And it's really life-changing. So there are these beautiful gifts that exist in the depths of despair and pain, where you think there's no moving forward. But there is so much beauty and growth on the other side of it that enables me to do now things that I never could have imagined me doing before in my life.
It's so true. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I just want to honor that.
But I wouldn't be here. And so I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it, even though it's painful and horrible in the moment.
Absolutely.
You think, gosh, if only I had that confidence when I was in primary school, and I wouldn't have had to do or put up with all of that stuff. But grateful for me then having the courage to do something with it all those years later. And that was just my time, perhaps.
Yeah. And it's brought you to here. It's that golden gem and golden nugget. It's amazing.
Yes. Now, I did want to ask you, given that I know it's kind of dying off as a topic, but I wanted to talk about COVID a little bit, and what you've learned about yourself. I mean, like here in Melbourne, where I live, it's possibly different now because China's probably catching up. But there was a point where we were the most locked down city in the world. It was different amongst states, a bit like how it was in New York was really locked down. Florida's like, hey, come visit. But we were like the New York, very, very locked down hard. We went through 6 and something like 300 days of lockdown over various periods of time. So I'm not sure what it was like in where you are in Texas there, but tell me, what was it what did you learn about yourself during COVID? Because it was a tough time thrust upon us.
Yeah. And honestly, it was really the impetus of me writing this book, because in the institute, one of the institutes that I run, Global Grid Institute, it's a mental health and emotional health platform for entrepreneurs, leaders, and business owners. And we had probably the largest increase of a lot of our global community that just wanted community because they were locked down. And so I had to take a step back a little bit, because it was overwhelming, the amount of people that needed so much, support, that I wanted to also document, okay, where is it that they needed to build audacious resilience? And this is a term that I started to coin, audacious resilience, the audacity for you to be able to bounce back after tough moments. And, I had my training wheels of a lot of that in my earlier years in life. And so I think the hardest part for me was the isolation, because our family, we were in Los Angeles at the time, and it was very, it was definitely on lockdown, and we decided to uproot and move our family because I was pregnant with our second child, and to Texas, where it was similar to Florida, but because my mental health was suffering so much, and I had to create space to be able to support our community and to be honest and open and say, you know what, I'm going through this too. I'm going through this with you, and to be transparent in the suck and to embrace the suck. But actually, the action point for us was we decided to uproot and leave for the sake of our family, and also to to spend time on what was important, which was our mental health, which was being able to go outside and walk, which was being able to, see people. And, granted, we were able to do that online,
Mm.
on Zoom. And so I think it was 100 days that we spent, every day supporting our community in some way. But I kid you not, the beauty of the relationships that were formed in 30 plus countries in our organization, it was huge. And that, I mean, that I think probably was the benefit of COVID, is strengthening the online relationships.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely. So if you had the choice now to either, knowing what you know now, and you had the choice to either go through COVID or not go through COVID, which would you choose?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, I don't know if I would do that again. Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting. I definitely would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this show was born out of COVID, just before COVID. We shut down on the 23rd of March, 2020.
Wow.
And there's so many things. So I'm going to LA in about, the time this goes to recording. I will have been to LA, but yeah, it's about 40 odd days now till I get to LA. That's the first time I've been able to really travel since 2019.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. That's right. Because Australia is opening up now.
yes. So yeah, I definitely would do it again, but I could see why people perhaps don't want to go through all that pain, because it's that uncertainty, isn't it? We want to know. So, well, what if I do that? What does that mean?
That's so
Well,
true.
yeah. So yeah, that's really cool. I had another question for you that has just escaped me right now and had something to do with COVID. Um, Maybe tell us about, so we'll wrap up in a few minutes. Tell us about how people can get in touch with you,
Absolutely.
your free gift that you said, and maybe by the time you do that, it'll pop back into my head. What is it?
Yeah. Well, and I think that, a lot of amazing things happened, for me during COVID. Honestly, just like you, we launched the Brave Table, which is our show. It drops, twice a week, to really talk about having brave conversations. And, that wouldn't have been even born if we didn't
Yes.
have COVID, because we were stuck in our homes for that first year in LA, having brave conversations with the people that we were quarantining with, and then our family members who were in different parts of the world. And so I think, to your point, absolutely, there were some golden nuggets. And so, yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram. I definitely am there. I do have a gift for you all. You can definitely pre-order the book at thatsuckednowwhat.com. It comes with a 5-day free healing journey. And, we talked a lot about healing relationships. We talked a lot about how to make peace with your past, and this 5-day healing practice that comes with when you order the book. Basically, day one, we're healing those relationships. Day two, we're talking about how to have more bravery and courageous action in your life. Day three, we're talking about bringing in abundance in your life and how to really connect back with yourself. But I do have a special gift for you all. We talked about a couple of the strategies and tips and tools on how to make peace with your past. And my emotional grit guidebook, we've had it around the world, thousands and thousands of copies. This is a guidebook that actually helps you master your emotions. And you can get it at globalgrit.co/EG guidebook.
I'll put the
So
link below the podcast if people haven't written that down, so
perfect.
they can access it from there. Yeah, wonderful.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Some beautiful gifts. Thank you. I've remembered my question. So my question was, because you mentioned there, so you've got like a 2-year-old. Is that your youngest?
I do. So she's almost 2. She's a year and a half now, and I have a 4-year-old. He just turned 4 yesterday.
Okay. So maybe the question relates to these two, but there'll be certainly some new mums that are listening to this as well. But I was going to say, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now, and how are you, I guess, using your model, how are you dealing with it?
Oh my goodness. So it's so anybody who has toddlers knows that toddler years are probably the hardest years. You're not sleeping, you're not really yourself because you're mastering the emotions of handling two small children. And I think that's pretty much why I had to write this book for myself as well as other parents and even this is for anybody going through seasonal change in life, transitions, pivots, career change, relationship change. And I think that my kids are they are my greatest teachers. And I know it sounds cliche, yet one of the embodiment practices that I talk about in the book to how to actually get through a tough moment and literally physically in your body to, I say, stomp out the suck and how to really embrace the suck. It's a full, 10-minute practice. I literally go over it in the book, but that was inspired by my then 2-year-old who had a really big day, crazy emotions. And I had crazy emotions because the babysitter who was going to come and relieve us to go on our very, very first date night in a while didn't show up.
Oh, nice.
And I was so, it was just, I was off. It was
Okay.
awful. It was all of the feelings. And so I told my son, I'm like, because he asked me, Mama, why are you stomping like a dinosaur? And I said, because honey, I have big feelings right now. And your daddy and I were supposed to go on a date and Mama wanted to be an adult. And it's very frustrating.
Mm.
And he said, it's frustrating. And he couldn't say the word. And so I said, you know what? Let's stomp like dinosaurs. So then we put on this dinosaur song, and that's where it birthed this embodiment practice that is now how to release heavy emotions in the book.
Yeah, nice work. I was just talking to a new mum yesterday, actually, and I said, "Look, do you know, I've come across do a lot of work with the young mums, and some you hear some people say, I just love I love babies and blah blah blah." And I said, I tell you my perspective. I said, no. I said, this was probably one of the worst phases of my life. Give them to me when they can talk and you can have some conversations and they're sleeping better. And, you no longer have to keep constantly changing them and all that
That's
kind of stuff.
exactly what my husband says. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's the male response to it. Um, but yeah, it does pass and you can get through it. But I think certainly having a structure like you've laid down in your book. Can't wait for the book to come out. It's as a reminder, it's coming out in January 2023, but you can pre-order now and it gets your free gifts at the same time. So
Amazing.
I would like to thank you today, Neeta. It's been great. It's been fun interviewing you. And again, what COVID has taught me is the ability that we are all reachable. Doesn't matter which corner of the globe you are. And I'm very grateful for COVID for this show coming out of that and enabling me to connect with such amazing people such as yourself. So it's been a real honor to have you on the show today. And thanks for your people for reaching out. And well, we'll have to get you on again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And so again, everybody that's watching, just check the links below the podcast in the comments, and you can get in contact with Neeta, get her book, and get a free grit guidebook. Is that what it was called?
Yes, the emotional grit guidebook.
There we
Yes.
go.
So globalgrit.co/EG guidebook.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Neeta. It's been a lot of fun here today.
Thank you so much, Rob. Take care.
You too.